My wife had read this comic, and in the comic there was this thing about trying to do at least one thing every day to further your career in some way. Every day, and making that a habit. And I started just suddenly realizing my portfolio was just literally penis drawings and dead baby jokes. Like, that was like what it was. So no one's going to take me seriously. I need to have a portfolio. How would I have a portfolio? I just started volunteering.
That was Edmund McMillen talking about putting in the hard miles to build his career.
Or the single bean into a jar, you know? Or a pebble.
Like one bean at a time, or just
one
like one
pebble,
bean?
one pebble or one bean at a time.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is very, how do I say it? Like, will you watch the indie movie with him? By the way, did you want to say something before we start talking? Because it just kind of started rolled in.
No, all I was going to say was I'm really not happy with my web camera because, and I'm not going to say what kind of web camera it is, but I'm not happy with it because it doesn't maintain focus, and I don't know.
It's a fancy one?
It's well, so I got online to go look, hey, what's the best web camera I can get?
Oh.
It's this one.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
This is one, number one. Yeah, I can't do that.
Do that with something you know. Seriously, do that with something you really know. Like, you truly know. Like you know woodworking.
The best woodworking chisels.
Yeah, you know that stuff,
see what
right?
kind of BS shows up.
Yeah, because a lot of that stuff is like marketing.
It's paid for.
Yeah, you could actually pay someone. And there's a lot of tips and tricks on how to get your, like, there's people that are really good at making stuff.
Maybe we have a listener out there who's making really good webcams, and hit us up. Hit me up, because I'm looking for one.
All right,
so we were actually talking about actual stuff with Edmund. What a cool dude, by the way.
Yes, he threw me for a loop how cool he was.
Well, I mean, like that quote, it's a little encapsulation, but I had no idea. And I think a lot of people who get into business or get into like the hottest fad that's happening are like, oh, I'm gonna get rich. And there's no question that everybody in this industry, even if they're a pure artist, want to make money too. That's important. But the get rich quick thing, I guess it happens.
It has happened. I know a guy that did it, and he went to jail.
Well, there you go.
It's not easy.
But hard work is. I remember seeing some post somewhere. I was like, it was some person, but here's 6 things that you can do for your career that anyone can do, and it was stuff like show up on time, be friendly, work hard, stuff like that. And it's like, Edmund worked hard.
You just reminded me of a really good quote. It's one by Calvin Coolidge. Have you heard about this? So he says,
who Calvin Coolidge is, former president of the United States.
I say Coolidge.
But that's wrong. It's Coolidge.
Coolidge sounds cool.
Well, that's like Coolio.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Who's also cool.
So let me read this to you. This one really, and I've seen this, and I know you've seen it too. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than an unsuccessful person with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
That's a really good quote.
Think about that. That's
a
phenomenal.
really good quote. He was not the only one to have a memorable quote about persistence.
Yeah, you can hear the keyboard there. This is live time, folks.
Here's this. Do you know who said this one? Energy and persistence conquer all things.
Ooh, was that LL Cool J?
It was the LL Cool J of the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Oh, you really like that dude? That dude was cool.
Well, yeah. I mean,
you did a lot of cool stuff.
Remember we were talking about Jack of all trades in one of those episodes? Well, I think it was George Fan one, maybe.
A lot of those
Benjamin
guys
Franklin.
From the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, they were all motherfuckers. I mean, let's be honest. But like,
no, I disagree.
He was a cool dude.
I think they did.
He did a lot of stuff. Yeah, got struck by lightning.
By the way, we usually start with what are you up to?
Yes. What are you up to?
I
got back into the wood shop.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Two.
What are you building?
I'm building. So I got a new PC a couple weeks ago. I've been evolving my setup. I got too many wires and stuff hanging around, so the cabinet I built back here when we went into
You
work
can't
from
see
home
it, but it's
status.
really good
You can't see
woodworking,
us.
folks.
Yeah, it's
Follow
I
him
like
on
this one.
Instagram. It's good stuff.
Well,
I'm serious.
making
I'm
a
really
matching
impressed
one.
with it.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
really impressed. Whenever when I went to your
It's-
house and I saw it in person, and I was like, it's like the kind of stuff that you could tell how heavy it is and how solid it is, and then it is. Does that make sense? Like, have you ever picked something up with your
Yeah.
hand and it's like too light and you're like, oh, and it just
Yeah.
feels cheap right away? Or pick something up and it's too heavy and it feels like wrong?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how it is. And I own one of your pieces of furniture. I think I might have already said that.
Yeah. You own one of the rejects.
An original. No, but it's really cool. I was building it one day. I don't know if did we already say this on a podcast? But there was a maybe it was in the live we did. But your daughter had wrote you a really nice like letter, like "Dad, I love you. You're the best," and all this stuff. And it's on the piece of furniture, like in a spot, the spot you can't
I know.
see.
I gotta
I thought that
gotta
was
get a
sweet.
picture of that so I can show it to her when she's angsty.
you gotta.
What are you up to? What's happening?
Let's see. There was like a season where I didn't play any games because we were so busy at IT, and a lot of really good games came out of that season. And now all those games are like either free on Epic or they're like $2.99 on like these flash sales.
Oh.
So I've been buying a lot of these games and playing. I started playing. I just got Injustice 2 because I want to play as a Ninja Turtle, and I've been playing Fortnite. A lot at night when I get a chance. Like when I'm done with everything, I'll play at like 11 when everyone's asleep, and then I'll play till like 1 a.m. sometimes. Yeah, it's good.
Are you still letting your kids play it, or was that like
No,
one and done?
that's out.
Nope.
No, come on. Like they're like 7, and like I set a building on fire, and the guy inside died. Like it's like what? You're not supposed
All
to
right.
talk like that.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we got rid of that quick.
Let me ask you this: if your kids were boys, would you let them play Fortnite, or would you also ban it?
That's a really good question. Probably ban it. I don't know. I used to play cops and robbers at that age, and I used to watch Chips. Remember Chips?
I remember Chips. And when you say play cops and robbers, you mean like run around outside with toy guns, like?
Yeah, and like half of us would be cops, and the other half would be. But I also played baseball. I don't know, man. That's a good question. It was more of how they were talking. So I think maybe I would not let them, but I'd let them play other stuff. There is a lot of like they're playing Fall Guys right now, a lot. I don't know if you know that game. Like they play that a lot on the Switch, and they're like, "Can you buy the Battle Pass?" So I gave them a goal. I was like, "If you can get to level 20 on the Battle Pass," because I bought them the last one and they only got to like level 20. It's like I'm not buying you the Battle Pass again if you're not even gonna play. But I don't know, man. Would you like? I mean, you have a mix, so it's different, I guess.
Well, and the girls were not, itching to play stuff like that. And Owen played Fortnite for a while. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to remember how old he was when he got into it. I don't think it came out till he was older.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I'd like to think that I'm not sexist like that, with the kids.
Yeah, but you are. You just proved it.
No, don't say that. You're.
It's a double standard.
No,
It's a double standard. I mean,
no,
you
it's
had
not
a real encounter, which you reacted to in a certain way with your daughters. And when I asked you if they were boys, you were like, I don't know. Okay.
Okay, you know what?
Boys and girls are
because
different.
here's the thing.
Every
they
kid
are
is
different. They are. Every kid is different, and I think boys. Listen, I have a lot of everybody's having babies, right? And some of them have boys, and they bring them over. You know what I mean? Like you get to that age where everyone's having kids.
Right. Yes, we're getting older. Yes, they're friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and then you get to a season where everyone's dying. It's like what? Because
Okay,
right?
hold on. Let's stay in the
okay.
procreation phase.
All right. Everyone's graduating. All right. So we're in procreation phase. There's a lot of kids that come over to our house, and they're boys. And I could see it. I've done like a small sample size. The boys are crazy. Like they are like jumping on everything. They just one kid would just come up and hit me in the nuts. He'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, what? And he'd just start punching me in the.
Yeah, well, aren't they punching each other in the nuts? Yeah, totally.
It's like, what are you doing? Like there's a million other places you could hit me. So none of the girls do that. The girls come over, and I don't think
I
I've
hope
ever
not.
seen one crazy girl. So that's what I'm thinking. Like they kind of have this. There is like this something different there.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question. I had the
So,
same
yeah, so
experience.
that's why
I coached all the kids' soccer teams, and the
Yeah.
coaching girls' soccer is fantastic. I mean, they're just
They're put
such
together,
a,
mature.
yeah, no, just a great group. Yeah, and I mean, whatever. They don't always listen, but
But they're more
it's a lot
mature
of
than
fun.
the boys, right?
Way more mature. I mean, the boys spend most of their time kicking each other's soccer balls as hard as they can off the field. It's like, oh, you gotta go get it. Like, come on, guys, stop it.
That's so good. That's so good.
All right. Well, we had a great chat with Edmund McMillen. I never had a chance to meet before.
Yeah.
Very accomplished, very prolific.
And he moves the beans, man. He moves the beans.
He took those quotes about persistence and hard work and lived them. So, hope you enjoy the conversation. Okay, today we are so lucky to be joined by super prolific designer and artist Edmund McMillen. Edmund has released upwards of 50 games throughout his career. Is that right? Over 50.
Depends on what you count.
What was I? Last night I got on to Blood Car 2000 Deluxe.
Yeah.
Deluxe.
Deluxe.
Yeah, Deluxe. Without the E, but with an exclamation point. Perhaps best known for Gish, Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy, not the easiest game. And The Binding of Isaac. And the upcoming Mewgenics. Edmund, Ed, it's great to meet you. That's pun is for you, Aaron. Welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm really excited to meet you, actually. I didn't say that before we started recording.
You're right. You hit it well.
I was waiting until we started recording. It's like, yeah.
So your name came up a couple weeks ago when we were talking to Emily Greer, and she told me that you designed the Congregate logo.
Yeah.
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 I had no idea.
I did a lot. I had to jump, I mean, I was a poor independent artist for upwards of 9 years before I had any money from anything, 10 years until Super Meat Boy. But yeah, I did a lot of random work for different companies and illustration stuff. But Congregate was a big one for sure, because that was their logo for a long time.
Yeah.
I also was the animator and character designer for Braid, which a lot of people didn't know.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Wow.
That wasn't in the documentary either. Really?
I think it would have been confusing. I think they asked me about that because they're like, it's too weird to be like talking about this other person and you're somehow involved. And I wasn't involved after the fact. It was.
We're
very
a minute
specific.
in, folks. We're a minute in. I'm sorry to cut you off. That's crazy. Finish your thought. I'm sorry. It's just we just started.
I just wanted to work with John. Like I was a judge in the IGF for the year that he entered Braid when the sprite was like a weird looking Mario sprite. It was like placeholder art.
Yeah.
And I thought the game was just so good. And I was like, hey, if you're looking for an animator, artist, or whatever, I'm around. Because I was doing contract work at the time. And he's like, yeah, let's do this. So I just wanted to be involved. It was just cool to be able to work with him and stuff. And he's a very interesting guy.
How close was that the whole scene?
It's very small back then. Like, I mean, I knew everybody who was anybody at the time. It was a very intimate, like, it went from, because even George Fan, he won the IGF before Gish was entered in the IGF, like the year before. So we like missed each other by like a year, or a year before that. I think it was Pontifex. Those are the guys I was working with before. Bridge Builder, Alex Austin, he's the lead programmer for that designer. I mean, yeah, like the Castle Crashers guy, the Behemoth, Tom Fulp, Dan Paladin, Alien Hominid, all that stuff, and World of Goo, like Kyle Gabler, like all of those people were all there when we were all talking. Cactus, who eventually did Hotline Miami, Derek Yu, who made Spelunky. Everybody would gather in San Francisco for the IGF back in the day when everybody liked each other. There was nothing divisive happening. We all loved each other and we're supporting each other. And yeah, the IGF really brought people together.
That is super cool. Was that IGF was that always held during GDC, or was it separate? It was okay. So you guys were all sort of coming up around the same time, and it sounds like maybe you guys aren't all tight anymore?
I mean, I'm tight with whoever wants to be tight with me, but there definitely was like a time.
I'll be tight with you, dude.
Come on, man. You guys just met.
The invitation just was thrown out there. I had to react. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I have absolutely no beef, and I don't think anybody has any beef with me from that point in time. But there was some stuff that happened like after the fact, and there, I think politics have gotten involved and separated a lot of people that have the same views, but maybe not exactly the same. I don't know. There's a lot of that. There's a lot. I've been banned from the IGF. I've been banned from GDC. I don't know why.
Wait a second. You've been banned from GDC? That doesn't sound very...
If you guys are listening and the right person can let me know why I can't go on stage or enter my games, let me know.
I didn't know that. Man, we're like 3
minutes
in.
We'll find that out for you.
We're barely getting started, folks.
Come on, Aaron.
All right, sorry. But I was telling Alex before we met you, just like we're kind of on the topic. When that movie came out, the indie game movie, that group you mentioned, those games, if you look at the landscape now of all the games that are out there, all of those people were inspired by y'all. Like every single one of them watched Indie Game the movie.
It's weird. And it's the worst thing in the world is when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I watched Indie Game the movie. I worked at Bungie. I quit my job to be independent," and I'm just like, "What are you doing?"
You told us to in the movie. You told us to, dude.
Doing that,
and then they do a really cool shot of the house you got. You're like, and now I have a house, and they do like a really nice. It's like I want a house.
This is the thing: is they're already there. They already have houses. They have wives and children, and they're going. They're just throwing themselves off a bridge.
Right.
And they were like, "Thanks," as they fall. And then I see the wife and the kid crying, and they're like,
"What did you do to us?"
You've inspired me." No.
I'm sure they're all doing great. Have you ever had a job?
I sure hope so.
That's a question. Edmund, have you ever had a job? Like, have
I've
you always
had
been
tons.
independent?
I've had so many.
So many.
I had a job while I was independent. I worked at GameStop.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
I worked at GameStop on and off while I was working on my own games. I was also an animal control officer. I mean, I worked at factories. I worked at Dairy Queen. I worked at the mall. I worked at Blockbuster for many years.
Blockbuster.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, these
Software, etc. Funko Land.
Wow. All right. If I'm opening a store, I'm not hiring you because I think all of those chains are out of business.
It's true. I wasn't the best employee either.
Well,
There wasn't much incentive for me to be good.
Funko Land. I love that place.
Yeah, me too. It was I like right when I got the job though, they turned into GameStop. They got bought out.
Yeah.
So like they had the kiosk set up for you to demo any used Nintendo game they had in the shop. And then right when they like tore them all out, sold them all, and then got rid of all the Nintendo cartridges. They no longer sold and bought them. Yeah, it was a upsetting time. But
were you in a mall or were you?
Oh yeah, on and off. There were two. It was like there was one in the mall and then one across the street from the mall, and I worked at both of them on and off.
That's when the market could support 2 GameStops in 1 zip code, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, the one I go to is busy all the time. You walk in there, they're stressed out. They're like. The phone's ringing.
That's crazy. Yeah, there's still a few here and they're dead. They just have a wall. They just have all those Funko Pops. The Doom Funko Pops.
I have a couple of back.
Oh, yeah.
It's all it is a wall of Funko Pops.
Funko Pops.
It's like a hoarder house. There's like a path to the games in the back.
It's super dangerous.
Let me introduce you to
by.
Aaron here, the patron saint of GameStop. Okay, so your start, like how you got into games, what got you interested in me? Like, I think I can make a game.
I didn't know I was making games for a few years because I was making Flash interactive animations, which were like walking the line of games. My claim to fame, so I did comics through high school, and then out of high school, I started making websites, and that with Flash, like really like 2.5, Flash 2.5, and I think 3, and then that got into more interactive stuff, and I took my comics online, I put them on Newgrounds.com, and then Newgrounds started pushing into more interactivity with their animations, and I started to make there was games called Dead Baby Dress Up, which was my claim to fame back in the day. the first time I was ever in a, like, it was an overseas of some UK magazine. There was an article in it about that. That was the first time I ever gotten like a magazine mentioned in a magazine, was for that baby dress up.
How old were you? Yeah, how old were you when
I
you
was
did baby dress up?
19, maybe 20.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
And from then it was like I was making games. They had score in them for what reason I don't know. It seemed like I needed to do it.
That moved.
Hey, look, you're getting the score. So, yeah, I made a few games that had some score on them, and then, I mean, back in the day, and like in school and stuff, I was making stuff with Click and Play, and I was super obsessed with the Duke Nukem 3D editor. Yeah. Of course, I made my school and all that stuff. You can't do that anymore, but I did. It was okay then. But
it was a simpler time.
I never thought about. I never thought about it as like a thing that I could make money off of, because, you know, other than id, how do you make money, you know, off of that sort of thing? There was some money in like in 99 and early 2000. There was money in ads, but then that crashed. There was like this huge crash.
Oh, online, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through Newgrounds.
Through your own website. So I had my own website, and Newgrounds, I would pull them from Newgrounds animations into my website, and then my website ran ads. And I remember getting actual,
they're like running Google ads or something like that.
They were you could get like 10 cents a click. It was insane. Like you could make so much money off of ads for a split second back.
What was that show that got really popular with the oh, I can't remember it. It had the guy with the luchador mask.
Strong Bad.
Yeah.
That
show. That guy made a ton of money off that stuff.
Yeah, no, it was huge. I mean, and that was about that time too, and like you could really make money. And then it would just fucking crashed. It died. Like it went to penny, then to a tenth of a penny, then to only paying you if they sign up for something, and then then it was only like a percentage of whatever it was, and it died to nothing. But for a few months, I remember getting a few checks for like $450, $500 and thinking, this is insane. This is it. This is my career. I'm going to keep making horrible online entertainment for my website, and people are going to come to it. But then it just died, and there were just tumbleweeds for many, many years until I had to get a job. You know, I was working the whole time, but I had to get a real job, a job that could pay rent in Santa Cruz, California, which is pretty crazy. And I got a job at Animal Control, and it lasted about a year.
Can you tell us one crazy story from the Animal Control?
I could tell you many.
There's got to be a good one. There's got to be a good one.
So there's pet cemeteries. They exist. If you don't know that they exist, they do. And you actually have to pay for a plot in a pet cemetery, but people don't know that. So people will go and they'll bury their dog at the pet cemetery by themselves. Oh, no. And then the people that own the pet cemetery are like, get this fucking dead dog out of my pet cemetery. And then they call me, and since I was the total bitch, you know, youngest person there, I was 20 years old, and everybody was way higher than me. I was like, I had to do the deads. I was the dead scraper. I was the guy scraping the deads off the road and scanning them to see if they were a cat or a dog. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
But, you know, chip scanning and all that stuff. And I had to dig up this Rottweiler, and they are heavy. I had to dig it up, put it in the car. And I remember in doing so, have you ever seen, and I think in Hawaii, they bury and cook pigs with coals in the ground, and they bury them. Right? And they pull them out. When they pull them out, they flour into like a meat carcass, right? And everybody's like, yay. That's what happened. So I stuck the shovel under it, and I got on one knee. I'm proposing to this animal here, and I'm like getting the leverage from my knee, and I'm like pushing down to pull it out, and it just goes whoosh, and it just gushes all over my leg.
I'm never going to a luau
and I'm
again.
just like, oh my God. And it was the worst smell possible, and I was gagging the whole time. And the whole ride home, it somehow smelled worse just on my leg, the juice. And I'm wiping it down, and I'm just spraying myself with water, and it's still just a spot, just like a droplet of this juice was gag worthy. And I'm holding my head out of the van as I'm driving back.
Dude, I thought you were gonna say once a bald eagle got trapped in the mall, and I caught it, and I thought it was gonna be a story like not Not Return of the Living
I
Dead.
had like rare heroic moments where it was like, because again, I was put on the dangerous stuff, and then the gross stuff is what I had to do because that's what they didn't want to do.
Dangerous?
Dangerous stuff would just be like, hey, go out in the woods where people don't like animal control officers here. Go out in the woods, and there may or may not be an animal stuck in the fence at 2 a.m. You know, that sort of stuff. And then it's like sometimes people would actually stick like stuffed animals in a fence, and then they would call and say, hey, there's a dog, it's stuck, it's dying, it's stuck in the fence. And just to troll whoever there. And yeah, just to get it. Because they're pissed because the animal control officer took their dog because it bit somebody or killed somebody's cat or whatever else. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it's all gross stuff. Like if an animal bites somebody, the only way to test for rabies is to cut its head off and open its brain, right? So I've had to carry heads of dogs.
Oh my god,
we're still in Act 1, folks.
Design. I know this is like design fodder for
I was thinking
a
the
whole
same
series
thing.
of games.
Oh, that's where you get all your ideas.
It was inspiring in a lot of weird ways, like dealing with dead and decaying things. Like you see it in my work, so you know it was an interesting experience. I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. I actually, if I wasn't fired from that job, I would have kept it. But I was fired because my training officer was going to get fired. It's this weird situation where basically I was the only person that had a high school diploma that worked there, and they needed to actually test the people that worked there. And for whatever reason, I was deemed more qualified than them. They took that really personally, and they kind of ganged up to try to get rid of a bunch of different people that were higher up than them. And when it came to their ability to do the job, basically I found a disc that said Edmund on it. What the fuck? It's a 3.5 disc sitting on the computer that says my name on it. So I put it in and I look at it, and it's just like this. They documented like the last couple months of work, just saying he didn't fill up the tank. Gas tank wasn't full all the way. Didn't wash out the van at the end of the, like, all just piddly stuff. But it was all stuff that I know that they had done previously to other people, eventually to amass this thing to make it look like whoever's working there is just not capable of doing their job. And then they claim that they gave them warnings. So I saw it and I quit. And then they called me and said, please come back. We can't do this ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. I did come back, and then they fired me once they found somebody else. It was a shitty ending. But I really liked the job.
Yeah, the video game industry is not the only bastion of politics. I guess animal control is. And
that's what I would have probably still been doing. I wouldn't have gotten into video games because I lost my job. I fell into like this horrible depression. My beard grew huge. My hair grew long, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with my life. I can't do
fingernails.
This. I've conceded to life. Like I'm back. We're went from living in an apartment to living back in this like dorm situation that we used to live in. That was the only way to live in Santa Cruz because it was only a couple $100 for a tiny room with our multiple cats, or a cat and a ferret at the time. I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to give art one more chance and trying to make money off of it. So my wife had read this comic, and in the comic there was this thing about trying to do at least one thing every day to further your career in some way every day, and making that a habit. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try one more time. We're going to try one more time. And I started just suddenly realizing my portfolio was just literally penis drawings and dead baby jokes. Like that was like what it was. So no one's going to take me seriously. I need to have a portfolio. How would I have a portfolio? I just started volunteering and just being like, hey, I'm free. I'm free to do your logos. I'm free to work for you. Anything you want me to do, I will do it. I'm capable. I'm building a portfolio. And people started giving me jobs. And eventually those free jobs became paid jobs. And I started to work, like I work for a magazine locally and stuff like that. And then through a friend of a friend, I heard of a company called Chronic Logic. Turned out it was like literally 2 blocks from my house. And I had played the games that they had released. There's one called Bridge Builder or Pontifex. It was under a bunch of different names. It was
Bridge
a
Builder,
physics-based bridge simulation game. And I really liked what they were doing. It wasn't like anything else. And Alex's work was all physics based, and it was really neat and fresh. I was like, hey, are you looking for an artist? And they happened to be at the time. And again, I volunteered a little bit. Then they hired me. I was there as their artist for a few months. And then I obsessively like did this stupidly giant design document for a physics-based platformer based on Alex's kind of physics engine called Gish, which was the blob of tar. And for whatever reason, they thought it was a good enough idea to work on it, and that's what we did. And I just fell into it, really. Like, I had also worked previously a little bit on a platformer with Tom Fulp, who had to stop working on it to work on Alien Hominid. So I was wiggling around in that design space, in that area, and I didn't know there wasn't money in it, you know. So it didn't seem like a career. It seemed like a hobby, but it was a hobby that I really liked. And getting in the IGF the year after, or it was the year after meeting them, Alex, with Gish, then it was just like, oh my God, like, this is an art form. Like, this is a fresh art form. This isn't something that has been mined for many, many years. There's a lot of possibilities here. There's a lot of things we can do. And there's a lot of stuff that's not being done in the mainstream at all because they can't take the risks to do it. And when you don't care too much about money and you got a bunch of wacky ideas and you can just take big risks, then you can come up with really cool stuff. And that was basically what the independent community, which was very tiny at the time, everybody was just doing just awe-inspiring stuff. And they were just taking big risks and doing really interesting things. And that's when I was like, oh, well, this is what I want to do. I still didn't think there was going to be money in it, but it's what I wanted to do. It went from, I was a comic artist too, now I'm a game designer, and this is my thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. When you were, before Gish, when you were building portfolio, I'll do stuff, were you thinking this could lead to career?
Yeah, well, I was thinking it would lead to an illustration career, which it kind of did. That's what I was doing. Like,
but okay, I
went from working at GameStop on and off. I would take less hours at GameStop when my illustration contract work and stuff like that was going up. I would do websites, logo design, t-shirt design, a lot of t-shirt design, illustration stuff. There was a company called T-Shirt Hell that would make controversial, edgy t-shirts back in the day. The claim to fame was the school shooter tour shirt. They paid out. That was like, I did a lot of illustration work for them. I did a lot of illustration work for a bunch of other t-shirt websites, essentially. And that's how I paid the bills.
And then so Gish, and then you're like, okay, I found my calling.
Yeah.
I don't think you fell into it, though. You made that comment earlier. It sounds like you worked really hard into it.
Yeah, it does sound like you worked really hard. You took a lot of risk. You were like sort of on faith. I'm going to make something, and you kind of made it
for
happen.
Me,
That's what
it seemed like I had no idea I was making games until I was, and then like it was just there. I don't know. It was. I remember in like high school and stuff, people saying like, "You should work in games," and thinking like, "Well, there's no reason for me to because no one's going to listen to my ideas, and there's no way I'm going to want to do anything that I'm not in control of. I'm just too much of a control freak. Like, I want to make my worlds real, and the only way to do that is do it on my own or whatever." So it just seemed like an impossibility. I didn't want to be a cog in a machine. It just I wanted to do something.
Yeah. That's I can relate. And when you say those words, that sounds to me like you're describing an entrepreneur, you know, like I don't want to do what somebody else wants to do. I want to do what I want to do. I don't know if you've ever have you thought about it that way at all? Or do you just think about it through like the creative aspect, you know, like I want to create as opposed to I want to control, or both?
All of this has come from one specific moment, and I'm trying not to get emotional about it because when I was in high school, we had a guest speaker come in, and his name is Clay Butler, and he was is a cartoonist, comic artist, animator. He had multiple shows on public access. He had an animation in the Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation that was on tour at the time. And no one gave a shit. And I thought he was the fucking coolest guy. Like, the coolest guy. I'm sorry, he has cancer and he's dying. But it's really... Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, this wasn't... Like, what he was selling was an option that wasn't apparent to me until that time. That I could just be really poor and do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like, I could figure it out. And it's not going to be this glamorous thing, and I'm going to have to try really hard and all this other stuff. But it was still an option. And this was the one person in my life that showed me that this was a possibility. And not only did he do that, but after the fact, he came to my house, he read my comics, he, you know, gave me a lot of positive words, you know, and gave me pointers, gave me tips, gave me his own zines and comics that he was making. And later in life, when I was struggling to make rent, I would hit him up and he would be like, this is, you know, I have some extra illustration work I can throw your way. Like, you know, it's too much for me right now. You can take this, you can take this. And he would just throw stuff at me. So he was my mentor, you know, growing up, or is my mentor growing up.
Yeah.
And he later told me that the reason why he did that was because he came to the school because somebody told him that I was troubled and that I could really use someone like him to talk to me. I had no clue, and he never told me for forever. And like, I'm close friends with this guy, and he just laughed about it, thinking like, you know, like, you were an at-risk youth kid, and that's why I came to talk to you. And I always laughed and thought, oh, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, I was. I had nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I had no direction at all.
Yeah.
I was angry at the world. I hated everybody. I didn't want to be alive. It was a terrible time for me in high school. But because this person opened this door for me, that just happened to do it, just opened this whole world that just simply didn't exist before. And
that's an amazing story.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to get.
No, it's all right, man. Sorry to hear about your friend.
Yeah, no, he's had a rough time for the past year, you know, and he's going through it. Yeah, I appreciate him so much, and the reality was that, like, that was the seed. That the seed was planted at that point in time, and from then on, it was like, I don't care if I make money doing this. The number one thing is I want to be independent. I want to be able to do and say whatever I want to do, and I would really like it if I made some money off of it. Like, even if it made a small chunk of rent, I would feel like super accomplished. And it was a huge motivator. And it was something that was just always there. Like, I want to do this. This is my goal. How can I achieve this? How can I game the system as much as I possibly can? Contact as many people as I can. Ask for as many favors as I can. Because I grew up really poor and in a really shitty environment. You know, I was willing to hustle to make ends meet. Yeah, so it wasn't so much ever really like, I never thought I would make money, but I really, really needed it. I really needed to just be able to be independent and do what I wanted to do, say what I wanted to say, and do things the way I wanted to do them, because I simply couldn't survive and live. Like, I couldn't live I couldn't. I would not be ever happy. Like, I'm built in a way that unless I'm being creative, and I'm continuously being creative, I feel horrible. Luckily, I'm fine, and I can keep, you know, making new stuff, and, you know, I've got, you know, great people around me and all that stuff. It's not like I'm an at-risk person anymore, but I need that. I need to be creative to survive.
Man, what a fucking phenomenal story. Just having somebody in your life at that point who it can be a role model like that. Just getting words of encouragement, you know, like when you're young, you don't know anything. You have no life experience. You have nothing to draw on. And sometimes you just have to, you have to believe. You just have to trust we were talking to George Fan, and he was talking about trying to decide whether to go to Blizzard or to PopCap. And he told us a story about the coin flip, you know, and we're like, wait, what, coin flip? And he's like, yeah, but when the coin's in the air,
it's just about to land.
Whatever you think while that coin's in the air, that's what's in your heart.
That's true.
and just having like a role model or somebody who gives you words of encouragement when you don't really know anything is so powerful.
I mean, I try, because of that experience, I will talk at any school, any college, any, whatever. Like I will take it and I will talk to a class that wants to listen. I feel like hopefully that's not abused at this point saying it, but it's true. Like just last week, there was a club at UCSC and they were like, hey, you want to come up? Can you come up and talk? And I said, sure. And they're like, really? Like, yeah, sure. Like, make it happen. And I'll come up there. It's just down the street. I'll do it. And just that hope, the hope that I can machine gun it out there and hit the right people that need it,
I think that vibe kind of came through in the documentary too, Yeah,
I guess. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think I did it, the documentary. When somebody approaches you and says, hey, we want to film you or whatever, you don't know if it's going to even be seen. It was actually one of 3 documentaries that filmed me at that point in time. Really strange. There was like this crazy bubbling and, a lot of, I remember being contacted by seed investors and all these words that I didn't know, all these, I'm an angel investor, like all this stuff. I don't know what the fuck that means. Like, it means we want to give you money. Like this show. And you're going to
show up with wings.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the end of like 2008 into 2009. There was, independent games seemed to be a thing that people were like, we can bank on this. Like, this is going to be the next big thing. So you got all these people coming over and stuff like that. But there was something definitely special about them, Lucian and Jamie. The coolest part was that they were also in the same boat. They're an independent company. They're risking their finances. They're believing in what they're doing, and they're really good at the craft. And it was kind of cool, like working in tandem in a weird way with these people. And they're talking about what they're doing and all the bullshit they have to go through. And then they're listening to me rattle on about my sleep-deprived ideas. And it was cool to be able to do it. But definitely a part of it was like, okay, well, maybe it will help somebody. And then another part of it's like, well, maybe this will help the game, even though it came out way later. But it was always like a hope.
It did.
Yeah.
I think it did.
Yeah. Well, I hope. I mean, we didn't actually see. I know it helped Fez. Because it got the name out there. But I mean, yeah, I'd hope so. But yeah, back in the day when it was like, this is all my savings. It's all gone. I'm banking on this game. Yeah, I'll do your documentary. Come on over. I'll talk all about my game.
So help us fill the gap between Gish and Super Meat Boy. But like, what was that?
That was
time
a very
period?
fun and inspired gap of being poor, but desperately making tons of Flash games. Like, so after I think I made a living off of Gish for a year and a half, and then it was done. It was considered one of the most successful indies of that year, and it like
Xbox Live, right?
way before. It was 2005, and the Xbox Live was 2008, 8.
What was it on? Just PC?
We sold it on our website. There was no Steam. There was no nothing.
Direct.
It was direct. Yeah.
Wait, what was it? Sorry. Do you remember what the price point was?
$20. All indie games were $20.
$20?
Yeah, $19.99.
That makes sense. Yeah, $19 was the magic price point.
Yeah.
That's a $60 price tag. Yeah.
Big Fish Games was like one of the only portals, and there was like no point.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, we would basically, you'd get press, you beg and plead for press somewhere, and we got a write up on Penny Arcade, a blog post once that got us, one day it got us like 108 sales, and the next day it got us 98 sales. That was just like a mind blowing, record breaking, weekend, and then it never even came close. I mean, and on Steam, we put it on Steam, and even this old game or whatever, and it sells way more than that. But back in the day, yeah, that was it, and it was split between 3 people. So yeah, it did well enough to last for about a year, and then that dried up. So I had to do part-time work again and a lot of other contract work, and I just started churning out tons of Flash games. And eventually they started doing Flash sponsorships, which was basically, there were like 3 different websites that were all competing for the top dog of Flash portals, because Flash games were huge. They would just drive millions and millions of plays. So like Armor Games, Newgrounds.com, there were a few others. They would basically say, hey, if you put an ad that says presented by Armor Games and then a link on the start screen that says Armor Games, click here for more games, will pay you $2,000. And it's like, well, that sounds like a good deal. And then the more your rep goes up, the more money you can finagle, and just it goes from there. I was making an okay living. I was still poverty line, but for me it was it was still great for me because I was living exclusively off, like, for I think 2000, by 2000, end of 2007 and 2008, I was living off of my Flash games. That was it. I was exclusively making games and living off of them comfortably enough for me to like buy a box of Magic cards whenever a new set came out and pay rent.
Dude, that's living the dream.
Yeah,
Man.
that is living the dream.
So yeah, I was
Those games, were you doing solo or were you doing it with the
always
like
one
those-
other person. I don't program, so
Okay.
I'm always working with a
Got it.
programmer. I worked with a bunch of different people. Most of the people that I work, all the people that I work with were fans that approached me for something I did previously. So like I made a game called Triachnid, Coil, The C Word, and eventually The Binding of Isaac were all programmed by Florian Himsel, who approached me as like a 15-year-old Austrian boy that could barely speak English, who loved Gish, and was like, check out my weird physics engine thing that I've made in Flash. It was really impressive. And eventually, we started working together. And I worked with tons, at least like 10 different programmers over those years, just churning out as many games as possible because I just needed it. Need to keep going. Need to keep producing
feed
and
the
doing
beast.
weirder stuff. And I had some pretty prolific years, even before, like right before Super Meat Boy. I think there was the year before Super Meat Boy released, I had released like 5 or 6 of my
five or six games in
Flash
one
games.
year.
Oh yeah, there was a time where I was making games and like trying to see. I mean, back then, before I had kids, I would just be like, I'm not gonna sleep for days, and I'm gonna work, and that's like the greatest, my happy place, right? I can just bear down and just work forever. And that's what I would do. I think.
Do you miss that? Do you miss that now?
Yeah,
Those days.
I do. I miss it. I mean, it's a totally different time. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of being even younger and being able to eat whatever I wanted constantly and like not worry about it. Now it's just like, well, I can't do that. I doubt I could even do it now if I tried. It's been years since I've worked that hard for that long.
Flash doesn't really. Would you say Flash doesn't exist anymore? I guess it exists.
It does because I'm using it currently, but it doesn't. It's not a supported web thing anymore. Like there's no plugins that are active for it anymore.
How do you feel? That's one thing I kind of wanted to ask you how you felt about that. Like, because my read is that basically Steve Jobs killed Flash because it was a workaround on the App Store.
I don't know. I mean, it's inevitable. All that stuff's inevitable. But where there's a will, there's a way. There's a bunch of different companies that specialize in porting old Flash stuff and making it alive again. And it's been, I still get updates from Tom saying like, oh, the other day he's like, oh, The Binding of Isaac is now on, what do they call it? Ripple or
Ripple. That's
something.
That's like a
there.
fortified liquor, isn't it?
Hey, were you on Congregate when that year you did the 5 games? Mm-hmm. Were they on Congregate?
Oh yeah, I put them on. Some of them were sponsored by Congregate. It was like whoever's paying me the most is whoever's getting their logo, which was the logo I made. But yeah, there was a bunch. I think that was the year you mentioned Blood Car 2000. That was that year. I think around that year. It was like
Deluxe.
Blood Car.
The original Blood Car or Blood Car 2000
Both.
Deluxe? There were
Both
two,
of
right?
them.
Okay.
I think the other one came out because Blood Car failed, and we were like trying to fix up some of the things that people wanted more of or less of.
More cars, more blood, I'm guessing.
I think that year I did it was like I did Time Fuck, Ether, Spewer, Meat Boy, Blast Miner, Blood Car. It's like 6 or 7 games.
That's
And
amazing.
it was a good
Meat Boy.
year. It was a good year. And then I spent a year and a half working on Meat Boy after that, which was very hard for me because I was so used to juggling multiple projects and just getting that dopamine, that constant flow.
Yeah.
There was like dry spots.
Is it hard for you to focus on something that's like that bigger, like a year and a half long
Oh
project?
yeah, I've made horrible mistakes. Trying to juggle.
Why did you choose me out of those titles, of all the titles you've done before? Why did you choose Meat Boy to be the?
Well, the actual behind the scenes story was this. So I had released right after that year, that crazy year. The end of that year, I'm like, I'm going to release an anthology disc of all of my work to make some money. And I'm going to do I'm going to sign it and I'm going to sell it. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's a good idea, actually.
So I did that, and we sold like 1,000 copies from our house. And that really helped pay the bills. And through that, I got the attention of a few different people in the industry. One of which was Cliffy B, who said like, "Hey, I like your stuff. If you ever want to, make a game on console, I have contacts in places." I love Cliff for so many different reasons. And one of them is because he was so kind that he gave me the contact of Kevin Hathaway at Microsoft, who was doing Xbox Live stuff at the time. And when I talked to him, I pitched the idea to do maybe a sequel or a remake of Gish. That was the original idea. And in order to do that game, Alex, who I was working with at the time, who did Gish, was like, "We need another programmer, somebody who's worked on consoles." And I knew this guy from Newgrounds.com named Tommy, and that's what he did that was what he was doing for a living, and he went indie. So I was like, "Hey, what do you think? You could you could live in our office. You could live in our office, and you can help us get Gish on its feet." And he came over and we worked for quite a few weeks on this project that was going nowhere. And I think Alex was in a really deep hole that he couldn't dig himself out of. And I think the pressure was far too much. And he said he couldn't do it. And I was just crushed, being like, "Oh my God, like this is my one opportunity." And all of my peers were becoming millionaires at this point. And I'm like, there's this thing that I dangling in front of me and I can't like just walk away from it. So I'm like, what about Meat Boy? That game's huge. Like Meat Boy was huge at the time on Newgrounds and a bunch of other websites. Like he was getting millions and millions, like 10 plus million plays every couple months or whatever. Like people were playing this game. And he's like, "Yeah, whatever. We just want to work with you." I was like, "Okay." So it just seemed like if I'm going to invest all my money and all my time into something, I'll just bank on the thing that had the most mainstream appeal of the things that I had made previously. And it was also a platformer. I mean, it's the simplest thing that I could probably do. I know I could do it. I'd done a million platformers before. And then basically Tommy went and stayed at my place for quite a while. And we got Meat Boy up and running. We were going to do it on the Wii as well, but we ended up running into issues where it couldn't actually run on the software at the size we wanted for WiiWare. You had a pretty small file sizes back then, but the Xbox thing did happen, and that was the story of actually how it went from one thing to another thing, and the opportunities happened. But yeah, it was Cliff that gave me Kevin's contact, which actually got the ball rolling on everything.
Awesome.
I don't know if he remembers that though. I think it was just one random person that he said, "Hey." Whatever.
No, it's a nice thread though. This is the trilogy. This is part 2. Greer was our last interview. Then you, and then Cliff.
That's right.
Come on, that's a thread, Alex.
That is a thread. Nice observation, Aaron. When did Meat Boy become super?
It became super the moment we said, "Hey, what about Meat Boy?" And I'm like, how could we make this? Because I don't want to just call it Meat Boy. And then I realized that if it was Super Meat Boy, that it would have the same, SMB, just like Super Mario Brothers. And that was like, okay, I gotta do Super Meat Boy. It's the same thing with Binding of Isaac too. The Binding of Isaac, The Legend of Zelda. That's the whole structure of the title. So those are my two throwbacks of like, hey.
What about Mewgenics?
Mewgenics. I mean, it's
Mewgenics.
Yeah,
sorry.
the closest thing it would be Pokemon originally, but then it's its own beast at this point. Maybe Final Fantasy Tactics, or I mean, the tactics games that I played the most were probably like Advanced Wars and Fire Emblem. I played a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, but it's a tactics game at this point, but it's also very inspired by Pokemon.
Very cool. And that's not in Flash, or is it in Flash?
The art is in Flash, or at least some of it. So Tyler Glale, who's programming and built the engine and everything for it, wrote an exporter for SWF files. So I draw in Flash and we animate in Flash, and then we export everything to the engine, and it does it all in vectors. So it looks really crisp clean at any scale. And it's my style kind of at this point. A lot of people see it and they think of me, and I'm really comfortable in the tool. I really like the drawing tools and animation tools that it offers. So yes, we are still working in Flash, just not at all programming in it. There's action scripting, which is pretty nice. Like we do different calls, like we utilize the engine, like the Flash engine's there. Like when I'm doing an animation for something and I want a cat to blink or change his expression or make contact with something else, it's all just action script calls through the animation slider. Like it works really well for what we want to do.
So that's like the front end of your pipeline that you're working in, and then it compiles out
for
to
me. Yeah, my side of
custom
things
engine.
is all Flash.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's good. And then is that going to be on everything, or is it PC or?
I don't. It'll definitely be PC first, of course. I don't know. We haven't lined up console stuff yet, outside of just figuring out how we would map everything to a controller, because it's a cursor based system. So a little bit of a hoop to jump through, but I don't think it'll be too bad.
Right, for a controller. And is this independent?
Yeah.
Right
When
on.
are you releasing?
End of next summer. That's the goal. It's crazy. It's the coolest project that I've ever worked on. It's weird to, like, working on Meat Boy was stupid stressful, and it felt awful majority of the time unless we were like showing it. And then the binding of Isaac was a 3-month super fast project that I did with Florian, which I was 100% certain would fail. And it ended up being, my biggest game by far. I never really got to enjoy working on it because it was such a rush job. I enjoyed working on The End Is Nigh, but it was based on me wanting to quit the industry. So it was kind of a yucky purge, if you will, working on that one. And then Bumbo was just kind of a mess, and I did not have fun working on that. But the past couple years working on Mewgenics is really fun. Like I wake up every day and I'm excited. I want to play it, and then I want to work on it, and then I want to play it. Like, it's fun to show. It's fun to talk about. It's so fucking vast. There's just so much going on. My only worry when it comes to selling this game is scaring people away because there's so much. There's just so much. And the tutorial and like leaning in, or what we would call a tutorial, leading people into the project is definitely going to be, I'm going to spoon feed, like, because there's so many systems, so much is going on, but it's also so needed to have that kind of real vast experience that you kind of get lost in, kind of like Isaac. It is needed. And I think I painted myself into a corner a little bit with Isaac, because at this point, after all the updates, you've got like 700 plus items that all combo, and people kind of expect a lot, but I really feel like we're giving a lot, and I'll be surprised if I'm not very pleased by the outcome, because it's been a very, very fun development cycle so far.
From what you've said so far, it sort of sounds like this is the first time you've had like a development experience like that.
Yeah. Gish was like that though. That was the closest. Gish was like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's cool. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but this is really fun, right? And like, there was a lot of camaraderie with Gish. It was a lot of like, let's stay up the whole day and work. And then you can become sleep deprived and everything's funny. And you put it in the game. Yeah, I'd say since Gish, this has been the one project that I'm like, wow, I'm happy the whole time. Everybody that I'm working on is so easygoing and so on point and really good at what they do. And I just feel like I don't have to worry about it. And
that's awesome. That's such a, like, who you work with is, to me, it's like so important. It's like more important than what you work on almost, Yeah,
I'd agree at this point. I wish I knew that.
Yeah.
Way a long time ago.
I wish I knew that a long time ago too. How big is it you and a programmer, or is it bigger?
No, it's the biggest team I've worked on. So it's me and Tyler, and then it's there are 3 animators. That's my workload. Like, there's so much animation in this game. I used to do all that myself, and now they're so much better than me. So 3 animators. There are 2 background artists. So the background art is intentionally clashing with my style. So it's like very painterly and stylized. It's got this like it's like 40s, 50s atomic retro grayscale vibe going on, and their style is just so great. So 2 background artists, Joey, the sound guy, is doing all the sound effect stuff, and then Ridiculon is the 2-man team of musicians that I've worked with for forever. They've done all my stuff. Yeah, so it's I'm used to just working with one other person and then contracting, a musician. Even with like Isaac, a lot of the sound effects were done by the music team, which they were not. Like, I remember Matthias telling me, "Yeah, I barfed yesterday because I'm doing, guttural sound effects for hours, and I don't want to do them anymore." I remember him telling him like, "Okay, we're gonna hire somebody else to do sound effects," and he's like, "Good, I don't ever want to do that again." So yeah, large team. The cool thing about it too is like we get a lot of people. We've been staggering our play tests. So like everybody's played at this point, but we hire a new person and then we're both really excited because then we get to like watch them experience the game for the first time. So it's a really good play test, and it's so much pressure. It's probably the most awful experience for so many of them because the way I do play testing is we do it remotely over Steam remote play. So we let them control the game, and then we watch them, and then I'm just like, okay, this is going to be super awkward because we're not going to tell you anything, and you're just going to play the game to the best of your ability, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable, but you can just give us your inner dialogue as you go, and go. And then they're just like, but it is like so valuable. Like doing it that way is just like the way to do it because you can see. You can see the issues. You can see where the dopamine hits. You can see where the frustration hits. All that stuff, and you know which way to lean with everything. And that's been really cool to be able to like throw everybody into it. And then you'll always see like at a certain point in time, somebody who's animating or whatever else will suddenly start playing it more. Like even though it's still its early stages and you can only play through 3 different chapters, you can see it click, and then they're like into it. And then suddenly their work goes up, even like the quality goes even spikes, and it feels great. You can see that everybody's like super invested in it, and hard for me because every month I'm having to pay everybody and having to juggle all these people and keep everything in order. And this is just all mostly stuff that I used to do myself. And at times I'm just like, "Grr." I'm jealous of the work that all these people are doing, even though I know it's just, they're doing it so much better.
Well, it sounds like you're enjoying it. I mean, that's a really hard transition to make from having your hands on everything and doing everything to, okay, I got to lean back a little bit and coach. And that's, it sounds like you're enjoying it.
It's a different
skill. It is hard.
Too.
Yeah. It is hard.
Yeah.
It's a different skill. Yeah.
It's hard to feel like I'm old now and I can't do it.
I don't know if you mentioned this before, but where's the money coming from to make
Where's the money coming from?
So I made this game. I made this game called The Binding of Isaac that sold like 10 million copies.
That's okay. So you're funding this yourself. All right.
That's where it's coming from. Everybody who buys a copy of The Binding of Isaac is giving me money to pay these people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, you truly are living the dream.
Yeah, that's a story. Worked really hard. Dug up dead dogs.
What a fucking journey. You paid your dues.
I did grow up like in the industry thinking, being stupid and assuming that every single person out there has also had the same experience, and then realizing no, that's not a common situation. You just see the rags to riches stuff happen in movies so often, you just kind of take it for granted, and it's just like, yeah. And then I like look over and I'm like, how does this person survive? Like, they've been working on this game for fucking 10 years and it looks amazing, but what are they doing for work? They must be working a lot of jobs. And then it's like, oh no, they've got like tons of funding and their parents are extremely wealthy and whatever.
All right, Edmund. Thank you. I think we kept you over an hour. It was really great getting to meet you. I love your story.
Well, thanks for having me. This was a fun break. I'm sorry I came in late.
Oh, no worries at all. It's Aaron who's like, it's like, what is it for you, buddy? It's like 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's all good though.
Good thing you don't get a job. You don't have to work in the morning.
I got to meet
The
Edmund.
later it gets, the more funny I become to people. So I'm down.
Right on. All right.
Those dead dog jokes hit hard at one.
Oh my God.
Blossom. Like it's like a blooming onion from Outback Steakhouse.
Oh no.
Like, whoa.
What died inside this dead dog?
Ranch dressing.
Oh, you had to be there. You had to be there.
All right. Thanks so much, Edmund. Great to meet you.
Nice
Thanks.
meeting you,
Nice to meet you too. I wish I could have said more smart things.
It was great.
You were pretty awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
2 days after we recorded and I sent him a thank you note, he let me know that his friend Clay passed away.
Yeah, I know you told me that was like really when when he explained why he meant so much to him, it was like that's got to be really hard, you know.
Yeah, and he's lucky to have had someone like that in his life.
Yeah, totally blessed. That's a really, really good person to have in your life.
Yeah, and I don't know what their age difference was. I read somewhere that when kids are growing up, through their young adult, adolescent, high school years, there's kind of like a profound impact that a relationship with an adult, like a mentor, outsized impact that has, who's not a parent, not your parent, Like if you take music lessons, your music teacher often has big impact, and having somebody kind of give you permission to try things or to fail or to trust yourself, that's a huge impact.
Yeah, I think they close the gap between, and we heard this when we spoke. We talked about this the other day. Like there's almost everyone we've interviewed, even yourself, who have made a difference to a lot of people. A lot of times you don't think you have, or they don't think they have, right? And they assume that they're not doing anything, even though they're making a huge impact. And I think whenever for both parties, right, when they get together, they close that gap, right? It's like, oh, making games, making art, doing music is possible because this person that's up there has come down to me now and is now telling me this, and then the person that's up there that's teaching the person is seeing their impact, and they know they're making a difference when they see the other person grow. So I think it closes the gap. It's like this. It used to be kind of more common, right? And when I was in Germany, that was a really common thing because it was called a apprenticeship. It was a very it was in the culture, like, oh, I'm gonna go do an apprenticeship, and you go with this like. You always think of a blacksmith, but it's like, no, it's like electricians have musicians, like a lot of musicians do apprenticeship, even actors and actresses and stuff. Go do
it's like making the impossible possible. Like when we see people who are doing amazing things, but they're over there, they're so far away.
Yeah, they're far away.
But when we actually meet somebody who's done those things and we hear their story and how they got there, it becomes possible.
Yeah, who was it that said that they didn't think games were made by humans? It was Randy?
Yeah, Randy.
Right? Randy Pitchford.
I didn't think games were. Yeah. And
it's like, dude, they are.
And
They're
Steve
made by
Downs was
people.
when he was in school. His I think it was a college professor or somebody
teacher.
said,
Yeah.
"Hey, you might actually be good at this."
Yeah, and he is.
Yeah.
That's
give some words of encouragement to those around you, and if
or
if
ask
you get the
for
chance,
or be on the other end. Ask.
That's right, both ways.
Send a letter.
If you get, send a letter.
Yeah, or like, or a
DM,
or a DM. I would even say send a letter. Like, imagine if you got a letter, like you just get a mail and it's like. And you open it and it's like, dear Alex Soropi. Actually, now you're gonna get all this mail.
I love mail.
You know what I mean? But it's true though, right? It means a lot.
I used to get letters.
You're like, come on, somebody write me a letter.
Come on, I'm lonely over here. Somebody send me some mail. I need a pen pal.
I send you mail. all the time.
Yeah, actually, I sent some stickers to somebody on our Discord.
I didn't even know you did that. That was Kurt, right?
Yeah, he answered a trivia question in the live event, and he's overseas. And I went to the post office to mail him. I'm like, I have no idea how much postage this is to go overseas. And the lady was like, it's $1.40 or something like that. I was like, yeah, think about it. That's a pretty freaking good deal. It's like, you're going to take this all the way across the Atlantic and deliver it to some dude's house for $1? Sold.
But, you know, we started the podcast with moving the beans. I think people don't understand how important that is. That every day you just keep doing one little bit. And like Hollywood has really polluted people's minds when they see these people. Like they don't see the amount, like it's a movie, right? Or like a story. Like you don't, there is this, or even like basketball players, like Michael Jordan. I think he would like shoot 3,000 times or something crazy, like from one spot on the court. Like if he would miss a shot from one spot on the court, he would shoot. I can't remember what the fact is, right? What he would do, but he would do this unbelievably
You can't remember the
obsessive.
fact.
Yeah, or like because he said it, and it just shows that it's like, yeah, you just have to keep doing it, and you're gonna fail. Like you're gonna miss, and then you're gonna miss.
Yeah,
and
I think that's
going.
it's also, it's really important to find something that you like, that you're passionate about, that you like to do, because it is a lot of work. So it definitely helps to something like that where you get enjoyment out of it.
Like you do it, and then you get some sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, thanks everybody for joining us again this week. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Edmund McMillen.
It was a good one.
It was a good one.
I can't believe I got to meet him. I didn't get to say that. Seriously, Ed, I don't know if he's listening right now, but when I saw him, I was in Germany. I was in Hamburg watching him, and he inspired me so much. And I was like, I'm going to do with this. I'm going to listen to this guy. And he really left an impression on me. So when you were like, we're going to speak to this guy, I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's awesome. And then I said it to him, like, dude, I'm so excited. He's like, well, you hit it really well. It's like, yeah, because I don't want to, like, fanboy all over you. Sorry, you were trying to say goodbye, and I just, like...
No, that was a great close. That was a great close. All right, next time, everybody.
See you, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Fourth Curtain Podcast. To get a peek at upcoming episodes or to send in questions to the show, visit our site at thefourthcurtain.com. And be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.